Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. I am a 30-year-old living in Boston, Massachusetts, technically Cambridge, with my husband and our dog. And today I'm going to disclose exactly how much we are trying to save for a house. We aren't just buying any house, we are actually trying to purchase a multifamily house. And the numbers may shock you if you are not steeped in the cost of real estate. It certainly shocked me. So stay to the end for that reveal. So the main reason we want to buy one of these multifamily properties is because we want to begin our real estate investing journey. If there's one thing that gives me great anxiety, it is having a mortgage that I am bound to for 30 years to pay for entirely by myself, unless that mortgage is entirely reasonable and easy to pay for, again, 30 years straight. And I think we should all probably adopt that mentality. Like it's no small undertaking. Like making a home purchase decision should be given the amount of weight that it deserves because you are literally paying that amount for the next 30 years. And in the greater Boston area, properties are not cheap. Like in the towns that we want to live in, a single family home that we would like to purchase would probably be between $650,000 to $900,000, depending on the town. Obviously, there's a range there. You can get lower depending on how far out you go and the quality of the house that you get, or you can go much, much, much higher. And that just scares me, honestly. Even being in the range that we were talking about, like those are some huge numbers. I know that those numbers might sound insane if you don't live in a really high cost of living area, but those are some of the numbers that you see around here regularly. And I have friends who are purchasing more expensive houses than that, let me tell you. So it is, it's expensive to live around here. And it's not that we don't want to get a single family home. We do want to get a single family home at some point. But starting with a multifamily felt kind of like a step in that direction where we can assume a mortgage, start to build equity in a property. I say start because have you seen an amortization schedule? And we also want to start to become real estate investors, and purchasing a multifamily that we could live in one half, rent out the other 2 units felt like the perfect way to start. So this felt like kind of a good way to dip our toes into homeownership without being fully burdened to a mortgage for 30 years. That felt like a huge amount to have to pay. Because there is a level of freedom that you lose when you're locked into a mortgage for that length of time. So I have my handy dandy spreadsheet that I've been working off of, where I basically have put together some numbers of what I expect to have to pay when it comes time to purchasing the home. And this is all costs that come with like that initial purchase and the months to follow. And again, these numbers kind of shocked me because I was just thinking about the down payment. I wasn't thinking about closing costs or repairs or moving costs or any of those things. So yeah. So let's first talk about the home value that I'm basing these calculations off of. So I have decided to base my calculations off of an $800,000 property. The way I got to that number is a bit of art and science, but there is some rationale behind it. I'm not just pulling a number out of thin air, which I think a lot of people do when they're purchasing a home, and you shouldn't do that. So I guess to start with a principle that you could use as well. I took our gross income, I divided that by 12, and I took 30% of that. And that gives you your ideal monthly housing payment, like how much you should basically plan for and not go beyond when it comes to a monthly housing payment. And that is factoring in all of the costs. So that's like if you go on Zillow and you look at the like estimated monthly payment, it includes home insurance, property taxes, private mortgage insurance if you put down less than 20% of a down payment, maybe some other costs, but like that's the main sum of it, plus of course the principal. So that amount for us should not be any higher than $6,200 a month. Now, if I went on Zillow and looked at houses that yielded a $6,200 a month payment, I'd be looking at houses that are like around $1 million, and I just don't feel comfortable spending that. So I actually took our gross income down a bit because I was like, well, what if something happened and one of us lost our jobs? What can I reasonably assume that we can earn? And so with that math, without revealing our exact incomes, I got to around $5,500. So for us, based on what we're planning to put down, that puts us at about an $800,000 property. Furthermore, $800,000 is kind of the sweet spot where I'm seeing multifamilies in the greater Boston area. Again, maybe not in like the most ideal towns or the most ideal locations or the most updated, but like that's something that we could reasonably afford, and like they're not total dumps. So $800,000 felt right for that reason as well. And then lastly, it was a number where I'm like, I'd feel comfortable, like we could pay $5,500 a month if we had to, if we could not fill tenants in the other half. I'd rather not pay $5,500 a month in our mortgage, but like if we had to, we could pull it off and we wouldn't be like in absolute trouble. Because that's the other thing with multifamilies is like, if you assume a huge mortgage banking on tenants, you'll be sorely, sorely surprised when you have vacancies. So that's how I got to 800,000. So now moving on to the actual calculations of what goes into our savings goal. So I'm basing all of this off of a 15% down payment. Now, I know 20% is kind of like the recommended amount, but if you're a first-time home buyer, actually put down less than 20%. So no need to actually hit that 20%. I still want to get as close to that as I can just because I think it's like a good financial principle, and I'm ideally trying to bring down the cost of our monthly mortgage. And obviously the more you put down, the less you're going to pay in your loan every single month. 15% kind of felt like a percentage where I'm like, okay, we're getting close to 20%, but we're not also dumping so much cash into the down payment, because 20% in an $800,000 home is a lot of money. So 15% of $800,000, that means we're putting $120,000 down. But this is the mistake I fell into. It doesn't stop there. There's more. There's a lot more. So that was what I dove into in the past few weeks, was like, okay, we should probably get acquainted with the real costs of purchasing a home. So the next thing that I factored in is closing costs. And in Massachusetts, you should look this up for your respective state, but in Massachusetts, the average closing cost for a buyer, usually they're higher for the seller, but for a buyer, it's about 2 to 3% of the home price. So I took the average of that at 2.5% and I got $20,000. So $20,000 for closing costs. Closing costs typically include lender fees, title fees, attorney fees, transfer taxes, all sorts of just random fees that somehow amount to $20,000. Unbelievable. But that's that. And then I also got the average cost of repairs for a home in your first year, because like on an average year, I think they say you should have about 1% earmarked for repairs. But first year, usually there's quite a few things that you want to do to the house. So based on what I found online, for an older home, it's going to be 2 to 3%. And I know I'm buying an old home, like that's a given. So I'm estimating 2.5% for that as well, which is $20,000. Then I added in $3,000 for moving costs, which is basically just like a moving truck taking what we have in our apartment to our new home. Could be lower, could be higher, I don't know. And then last, I factored in furniture, which I've actually put down at $20,000. And obviously this is something that's super personal to you, and depending on how much furniture you have, how much you think you have to buy, but I think we're gonna have to buy quite a few things. So I put down $20,000 just to be safe. So all of that added together gives us a grand total of $183,000. That number is really different than the initial $120,000 I was planning for. It is a reality check, and I also recognize like these costs could be lower than I think. Like I think I'm being pretty conservative with these numbers. Closing costs could be lower. It's possible that repairs aren't actually $20,000 in the first year. It's possible that I don't drop 20K on furniture in the first year. I think I'm trying to like be conservative because I want to be prepared for the worst. And I also want to make sure that I have plenty of money buffered for when things certainly go awry, because sometimes repairs end up costing more than $20,000. Like 20K is like a guesstimate, but like that could be a lot higher depending on what the state of the house. So yeah, it's not amazing. We are still a ways away from that goal. I don't know if I'm going to share my exact numbers of how much we have saved on the internet. Like it's probably going to take another couple of years for us to achieve $183,000 in cash, because like a lot of our money right now is in retirement accounts and investments that we don't want to pull from. So yeah, it's going to take a bit longer than I initially thought. Like 120K, I was like, okay, like we can do that next year, but 183,000 is a lot different. And I'm glad that I am aware of the facts, but it is a reality check. And I think that if you're approaching purchasing a home, it's really good for you to just face the numbers and like start to look at what's available in your area and be honest with yourself about how much it's actually going to cost. You do not want to end up in a situation where you're purchasing a home and then you're house poor because you didn't factor in all these extra expenses and suddenly you're owing far more than you ever imagined. So that's the math behind my multifamily home purchase. I hope that this helps someone today to help you get a little bit closer to understanding what your true cost of purchase will be if you're looking to purchase a home. And yeah, if you don't live in an expensive area, you're probably disturbed by these numbers, as am I. So Thanks for watching.